My name is Genesis, and I am a sickle cell warrior. I am currently 23. I was transplanted at 20. I had a haploidentical or half-match bone marrow transplant via my mom. So I talked to both of my parents, being that it was a haploidentical trial. I think the process was about 3 to 4 months. Ultimately, we found out that my dad was not a good match. And that's when we were eventually told that my mom was a half match. It was a family discussion. We based it on how we were going to make it work, how each person was going to be involved. And at the end of it, it was my choice to move forward with the transplant. And it was mainly based on my pain that I was having from sickle cell. My health before transplant was hell. Although I was used to it, it was no way to live. When I had my first silent stroke around the age of 8, I was shortly put on the National Donor Registry, and I continued to look for a match as I got older. I was on the registry for more than 10 years, and then unfortunately at this time, there were no trials for sickle cell disease. But ultimately, I didn't find a perfect match or unrelated donor. I was in and out of the hospital consistently due to my pain being at a level of 8 out of 10 by the end of the week or before the end of the week. I remember having a badge packed that I never unpacked because that's how much I was going to the hospital. It was like clockwork, and I just remember my family trying to be as supportive as they could, but there was only so much that they could do by taking me to the hospital and advocating for me when I couldn't, which pained me. So it was very hard. Some of the concerns that I had were things that you don't necessarily think about, how your body's going to react to the radiation or how you're going to react to chemo, things that you have to go through before the transplant, like fertility preservation and making sure that you're going to be financially stable. My grandma, she was my caregiver, and we had to make sure that we raised enough funds. It's a lot of preparation that you have to go through before you actually get to the transplant process itself. Mentally, I had to work through the possibility of being cured and the new life that I was going to have. Physically, I was still in and out of the hospital, just trying to stay up as healthy as I could be and strong enough for the transplant. Thus, they had to make sure that my body was able to go through a transplant looking at every vital organ, like my eyes, my heart, my lungs, to be able to clear me for the transplant process, as well as completing other important things like the fertility preservation before I started chemo and radiation. As I completed these things and was able to start my countdown for the chemo and radiation process, COVID happened and I had to go home for 4 months. And 4 months of going back to being in and out of the hospital was the worst possible time to be in the hospital. So I tried to stay positive, but it was hard physically and mentally. I was excited to get the call in August that I was the first patient that they were bringing back for the sickle cell protocol. Answering my prayers, I had my transplant on 9/11/2020. Remarkable in so many ways. I felt joyous and so many emotions, and I wasn't in much pain due to it being overshadowed with excitement. Watching my mom's donor cells go into me is when I knew that it was a start of a new beginning that I had prayed for since I was a little girl. I felt very supported throughout the whole process. I had multiple teams following me from the beginning, including primary hematology transplant team, from people like counseling, social work, and many more, as well as people that weren't there, like my family at home, friends, other warriors, and other patients that were there that I met during the process at NIH, they're going through the same trial as me. Some things that I was not able to do before are just the simple things, like being able to do an hour workout, being able to walk for longer periods of time, going up and down stairs. That was really hard for me. Being in colder climates, just simple things that, not everybody thinks about would really matter. I think they did a good job of giving me a good rundown of the transplant protocol and going over it with me and my family. I wish they would have highlighted the risks a little bit more or extensively instead of glossing over them. I wouldn't have changed my mind, but I probably wouldn't have been as surprised when something went wrong and being told that I had cancer. Shortly after I completed my sickle cell transplant in September, I noticed that I started to have these weird things happen. I started to have stomach issues. I was not able to keep my food down, all sort of things that should not be happening after you have already completed your transplant process. You should be heading towards your 100 days. They looked at what was going on and they said that my levels were high with my EBV. They kept track of it and they just kept going up. So eventually I was told that I had PTLD, which is post-transplant lymphoma disorder, and it was as a result of my transplant. So that is the complication that I had. They tried a therapy that they had tried before with someone that also had this happen, one other person. He responded well to the medication. I did not, unfortunately, and then due to that, I had to go through 3 more rounds of chemo after already doing the chemo from the sickle cell process, and 2 more rounds of T cells, which are cytotoxic. I don't know what to call them, but they're cytotoxic and they are targeted towards the EBV, which was what my cancer was based on. That was a lot. And I think my sickle cell, I know that it strengthened me to be able to go through my cancer journey. It gave me the endurance that I needed to go through that process. The main barriers that I have been experiencing is the pain. When you prepared yourself that going through this process, that the pain would instantly or eventually be gone, and you don't get that within maybe 2 years, it's hard to grasp mentally. There was a brief period throughout my transplant journey where I didn't experience any pain. And it was right before I got my cancer diagnosis. I'm trying to get back there, but it seems far away. Mentally, it's a lot because I had a glimpse of what I want, like everyone else experiences every day, and can't have it yet. Mentally, I'm still trying to remind myself that I'm healed from sickle cell because I'm still having pain, as well as not trying to jump to conclusions when something happens health-wise. Physically, I'm trying to grow stronger and explore what I can do without as much pain while still not overdoing it. I don't think I have found the correct balance yet. Being limited your whole life, and now some of those limitations are lifted without weight-bearing pain. I just want to do everything and anything while completely forgetting I'm still healing. My life has changed for the better with not having to be in the hospital every weekend. What surprised me is how you truly can't predict what will happen when you go through a transplant process and how long it takes you to heal from your experience. Consider your situation and make sure that everything that comes with transplant is worth it for you. I was in so much pain that I was willing to risk death to be cured due to the state of my sickle cell. My identity has only strengthened since being transplanted. There is so much that needs to be done for the sickle cell community, and during this experience, I said, I wish I could bottle up this feeling that I felt on my transplant day to give to every warrior because they deserve it just as much. So I still identify as a warrior, and it will always be a part of my identity. Having a transplant and being a cancer survivor has only increased my ability to be a light for the sickle cell community.